Collateral damage, option 2, part 2, Don Stovner. Now, I need everyone to understand that for the majority of my time in the Air Force, I held a top secret clearance. Um, and it was a very high clearance. I didn't get deployment orders. I never saw orders. There would be a piece of paper. I'd read over it. I'd sign my name where I'm supposed to sign my name. And then that was it. Nothing else. I had to remember what I was supposed to do. I had to remember what the operations were and execute them on the deployment. When all this started going down in 2007 with MGM Mirage, with Ted Whiting, Steve Koenig, Kyle Edwards, and the FBI, it was 2007, 2008. Even if my expectation of declassification was 20 years, which I know it was not, it was 25 or 35, I could never remember. Even if it was, I was still 2 years out from that date. So had I opened my mouth at all, I would have been tried for treason. So I was sure they were trying to prosecute me for some federal crime. So here's Don Stovner wanting to make friends. I let him. He's telling me stories about the flight line, things that I saw, things that I witnessed, not things that involved me. So I knew he had spoken to someone who had served in my unit. And based on the stories, it was between late 87 and mid 1988. So I knew he had spoken to someone. He specifically knew about a hydrazine spill that occurred on the flight line outside of the 33rd AMU on our jets, on our unit jets. It just so happens that period of time coincides with another NCO who had transferred into my unit and I was friends with. In 2018, I found out he also was in prison for harming children, and he was a 20-year haul. So at some point, they crossed paths, probably in prisoner swaps and transfers, who knows. Now, I said in previously with the Paul Rather option 3 that there is a crossover here. Now, I've known about this crossover since 2009, but I didn't let anyone know that I knew this information. Paul Rather and Don Stovner were in the same Colorado prison at the same time. Don Stovner arrived approximately 2 years after Paul Rather arrived. So they were in the same prison at the same time. Now, did they know each other? They may have known of each other, but the coincidence is too much. You can't put that aside. Now remember, Don Stovner has already popped up in my life 3 separate times in 3 different scenarios. So my alert is up. My cackles are already up. He's wanting to be friends with me after being absolutely toxic, aggressive, and hostile to me. And he had so much information about my ancient past, a past that did not have an internet footprint because the internet did not exist. Cell phones did not exist. The information he had was so pre-internet. Not even government agencies were using it. But that question was answered when he invited me to his little bachelor pad, the little house, and found that his mother was an IRS employee and then an IRS consultant and had access to IRS records. Then it all made sense. Of course, he'd have this information that was pre-internet. The only agency that would is the IRS. So now I know he's some sort of an agent. Whatever that aggression and hostility was, I don't know. I don't know how he went from that to, I need to be your friend, we need to be together, blah, blah, blah. And so I just played along. What else could I do?
Now remember, this man first came into my life as someone who was supposed to cause problems, made locker room talk. It was all designed to engage me in a negative way. But Don Stovner already knew when he first joined that I was being investigated for stolen valor. That first call at MGM Mirage for the cabling, he already knew there were rumors about stolen valor. And because of what the United States Air Force did in 1987, there was no way to find me in Lackland Air Force Base records. In fact, in 2012, they had to use microfiche to go get my basic training records. That's how they find me. Microfiche. Some of you even know what that is? Probably not. Don Stovner, Kyle Edwards, Ted Whiting, none of them had access to microfiche. You can't just be a veteran and have a connection and, get a favor. That doesn't work that way. So here's Stovner thinking he's got himself a fish, a big fish. He's going to break me because he knows for a fact, Stovner knows for a fact, I never attended basic training at Lackland Air Force Base. Remember? They screwed up my name, first and last name. No photos. I was pulled from every photo shoot. So Don Stovner was absolutely 100% sure I was just a liar. In fact, in 2015, the stalking, the following, the break-ins, everything stopped because I was 100% service connected at that point, and I had submitted a personal statement with names and ranks from my unit. Everything stopped because in 2017, I got on a cruise ship and remained there, sailing around as a guest, away from everyone until COVID hit. The only reason I got off a ship was because of COVID.